Vamshi Vibhushitakarannavaniradavat Pitambara Darunabimba Aladharosthat Purnendu Sundara Mukhat Aravinda Netrat Krishnat Param Kimapi Tattvam na Jane. Om Shri Krishnaya Namaha. Welcome to the Friday scripture class. And today's scripture is Uddhava Gita, the last message of Sri Krishna. And our textbook is of the same name, Uddhava Gita, the last message of Sri Krishna. And it is translated by Swami Madhavananda. We are on page 132 of the book, and it is chapter 9. And we'll start the verse 22 today. Sri Krishna has been saying to Uddhava about the glory and power of bhakti. What bhakti has the power, Sri Krishna says, is it purifies the mind. Without bhakti, nothing can be so powerful, so effective to purify the mind. So bhakti is the essence to clean your mind, to take you to God, to make you free from the attachment and bondage to the world. It is that which gives you emancipation, freedom, liberation. Bhakti has that power, says Bhagavan Sri Krishna. So, like earlier, we studied that I, the dear self of the pious, says Sri Krishna. I am the self. I am the Atman of the pious in verse 21, attainable by devotion alone. Why Sri Krishna says by devotion alone I can be attained? That is what the bhakti is. God can be attained only through devotion. Even the knowledge or jnana yoga that the practitioner, the jnana yogi, pursues about the jnana and tries to detach from the world, tries to negate the world and body and mind, the individual existence. All there is a element of bhakti or devotion to the attainment of that knowledge, that Brahman, that one without a second. What is Brahman? It is blissful being, something that is joyful, blissful, raso vaisa. That is rasagum hevayam labdvanandi bhavati. Brahman is not something that is just consciousness or just entity without anything. It is Satchit Ananda, that Ananda aspect of the rasa or Ananda aspect of the Brahman is what Bhagavan for the devotee. And without that love for that Ananda aspect, how can there be attraction towards that which will make you give up everything that seems so charming to our senses and mind in for the worldly person? So mind is, as it were, is all attached to the world in the beginning. The prakrita mind, the what you call the mind, that is basic mind. So that mind has to be refined, purified to attain, to be able to have the joy of that love of God, or the joy of attaining that rasa, pure joy, unmixed joy of God or Brahman. So in Jnana Yoga also bhakti is necessary. So bhakti, where it is all said about me, bhakti about me, Sri Krishna says, is it bhakti to Sri Krishna, one avatara? Is it bhakti to all the avatars or any of the avatars of God, any form of God? God has come to this world in the form of Rama, in the form of Parashurama, in the form of later on as Krishna or Buddha or Sri Ramakrishna. Devotion or to any form of God, is that alone bhakti? Bhakti, as Sri Krishna said in verse 21 of this chapter, that I, the dear self of the pious, am attainable by devotion alone. So, bhakti towards the dear self, the Bhagavan is our own Atma, the true Atma, true self, that to attain, and that Atma is Satchidananda Swarupa. That Atma to attain, you need devotion to God. God, your heart should melt in love of God. And when that happens, you are then purified in mind and become detached from the world and go on the right path towards that bliss that is experienced by devotion to God. So, God is our true self, our real self is God alone, and bhakti is our dedication, devotion, search, trying to attainment to that real self, not the thing that our mind and senses go in the world all around. We see our eyes, and it is so seems to be attractive. Attraction of the world is nothing compared to the real beauty, charm, and bliss of God. So, having little intellect, this world is for those who are not intelligent, not bright, for so to say, about the dumb people. When we are attracted to the charm and beauty of the world, we are dumb. So, God is infinitely more charming, more beautiful, more joyful than this tucha world can give. So the world just has it seems like it is joyful. It is no joyful at all. Uh, it is all semblance of a joy, appearance of happiness. Real happiness is in God, who is sitting in our heart as our self, as our Atma. That's what God says. That's why the dear self of the pious. Because why only dear self of the pious, pure hearted? Because they can perceive God in their heart. Others also the same God is there, but to when you are purified, then only you can perceive. Otherwise, you are unaware of your true self, of God residing in your heart. Your mind is only outgoing, and only world is your concern and nothing else. And that world, which always changes, slips away, fritters away, always is gone. So that you want to catch that happiness, little happiness, that doesn't happen. So so it is said here like that. So the verse 22, let's begin with that. Dharma satya dayo peto vidyava tapasanvita madbhaktya petamatmanam nasamyak prapunatihi. Piety joined to truthfulness. One person is dharmika, dharma, it is very ethical, moral. And that dharmika person is also, full of piety and very compassionate and also truthful. His character is impeccable. So already there is sign of purity. So one of the very higher type of human being, not the basic one who is indulged in the world and worldly person. Very wonderful human being where piety joined with truthfulness. He's truthful and also dharmika. Dharma is there. He follows the rules of his stage of life. Rule, that is dharma. And that person is such a wonderful person. Or another compare given, vidyava tapasanvita, or a person and a compassionate or learning, the compassion or learning coupled with austerity. Another person is very compassionate, very learned, and also not dry learning. He's very compassionate, learned, and also practices austerity. Is not indulged in luxury. So all good qualities are there in that person. That person may be truthful and follows the dharma, follows piety, or very compassionate and yet practices austerity. What a great human being, ideal human being. So, but Sri Krishna says, even they cannot never fully purify the mind in even such qualities as like this great spiritual qualities cannot purify the mind uh, equal to the one who has devotion to me, for mind which is devoid of devotion to me. So they alone are not able to purify the mind, wholly purify the mind without the devotion to me. Only thing that completely purifies mind, absolutely purified mind, is pure devotion to God alone. Bhakti eva gariyasi. That's why it is said in the in the Narada Bhakti Sutra. Bhakti reva gariyasi, bhakti reva gariyasi at the end. So bhakti alone is the best, it is said. Here Sri Krishna clearly compares with the jnanis which practice austerity, truthfulness, compassion, and perform all dharma life. Even these wonderful qualities cannot purify as dharma, as the bhakti will purify. Because in the individual self, which performs all dharma and also it practices austerity and it also very learned, compassionate, these all relate to the individual person. That I sense is there in that. I am a very dharmika person. I practice austerity, and I am charitable. I am very moral. Like that, there always I sense is there, individualized thing, and that practices make them whatever way it can go to purity. There's no doubt they are great qualities which purifies a person and makes ready for spiritual enlightenment. But total purity which leads to instant enlightenment is bhakti. Bhakti, in the bhakti, the subject is God alone. God Himself is the subject. Here is no, it is not the jiva. It is about the Ishvara. It is about the Paramatma. When Paramatma becomes the main thing of life, attraction of life, then that is more powerful than this trying to purify yourself with austerity or learning or compassion or even coupled with truthfulness. All these are great. Without these practices, you cannot have bhakti. Bhakti will not be just you sit in front of temple and do arati. Bhakti will not come that way. Bhakti comes when your life is transformed, when you are truthful, you are compassionate, you learn the stories of God, and you deliberately move towards God. You practice the thing that will increase your devotion, pure devotion. Then only bhakti will come. But this alone, without trying to have real bhakti, you will not be purified. You will not get God. So these are the steps to God. But God has to come along with that. Love for God has to come with truthfulness, with piety, with compassion, with learning. Uh, the center is God. Why these? This is for to attain God. Without love for God, these all things become like you may lead a very noble life in this world, and yet nothing about the real bliss of God. You will miss that. You will hit that. That's how many sattvika person, many good person, they miss the target. They miss the goal. They live a good life, no doubt, but they cannot fill their heart with the bliss. That's one great person was or Vidyasagar. He was so truthful, honest, all very charitable, and very noble person of his time. One of the very noblest person of the society was Vidyasagar. But he somehow had no faith in God. He never tried to develop love of God. So that love for God, that was missing in his life. That bliss of God, it was incomplete. His life was, that's why Sri Ramakrishna, when he saw him, he recognized he has become totally purified by his actions of piety and selflessness, and his purity is coming. But attraction to God is not has not come to his heart. He avoided somehow in his life, and the God didn't become a part of his life, though he was such a great scholar and a wonderful person. So to make this lacuna filled with the love of God, Sri Ramakrishna wanted him to have that thing. He said, "Come to Dakshineswar one day." He would have talked to him, he would have generated God to him. But somehow he said, "Yes, I will come." But he didn't come. Sri Ramakrishna felt very sorry for that. He said he is such a great person, but he couldn't keep his words. He said he will come, but he didn't come. It was not about his coming to Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Ramakrishna would give him some talk. Not about Sri Ramakrishna at all. It was about Vidyasagar. Only Sri Ramakrishna was so eager to have him come to Dakshineswar. So Sri Ramakrishna often said he would come, but he didn't come. If he had come, he might have got love of God kindled again. Because after being at the threshold, he was just near the door of God, but he didn't knock the door. So that was the problem. He said nobody is there. He had no faith that beyond the door There is bliss, there is the soul, there is your own soul residing there, which is ready to come and take the seat in your heart. Your heart is empty, but he never knocked at the door, and door didn't open. Unless you knock the door, how it will open? Sri Ramakrishna was eager for him to have knocked the door, and because he was ready. So this is what Sri Krishna tries to explain to Uddhava. You see, all this wonderful living, moral life, ethical life, truthfulness, all have the meaning only when you have love of God. So that is the very basis, or that is the very thing that is desired. Love of God is the highest quality. And when that is there, all these qualities really they start shining, glistening, and they give the value to you. You do all good. You are perfectly moral, and you think about it. You are selfless. You are truthful. You are dharmic, or piety is there in your pious life you lead, um, and you have devotion to God. Life becomes fulfilled. Otherwise, lives remain unfulfilled. Their life remains just you feel that you didn't gain what you were supposed to gain. Lord, our heart will remain unfulfilled unless we get unrested. They will not rest because there is no what you call satisfaction, or you call complete contentment, unless you have love of God come to your heart, when God comes to your heart. So that's what Sri Krishna tries to say. With all these qualities, try to develop love of God. It will be fantastic, successful life will be. Let us go to next verse. Katham vina Roma harsham dravata chetasa vina vinanandashru kalaya suddhed bhaktya vinasaya. How how can the mind be purified without devotion? Without devotion to God, how can mind be purified? So that is what Sri Krishna says. Sri Krishna amazingly says, without devotion to God, there's no way mind can be totally purified. Other things like this truthfulness and selflessness, they try to clean the mind and to try to make it fit. But devotion to God is the ultimate thing which will fully, absolutely clean your mind. Not a speck of dirt and impurity will be there. So, how can the mind be purified without devotion? What is devotion? How is the devotion? How will you know we have devotion or not? If you go to the shrine, try to think of God, repeat God's name. Have we attained the devotion? Bhakti. Sri Ramakrishna says devotion are of four categories, 4 degrees. He says one is bhakti, then bhava, then mahabhava, then prema. All four different stages of bhakti. So bhakti is the first, that you feel connected to God. God becomes a part of your life, center of your life, not the world, not the worldly duties, but God becomes center of life. Then the bhakti is there. And when bhakti develops, and now it's going towards bhava, bhakti now matures. God has become inseparable part of your life. And whatever you do and you think, and it is all about God is the thing. You look after your family, look after your children. All the attempt is to be with God. In everything in the world seems to be all given by God, and God seems to be priority in performing your duty. Somebody say, if my son does this, I'll be free from that. So that is very nice. Your son, you want him to rage, you want him to stand on your feet, but by helping your son to stand on his feet, what you are trying to achieve is not just helping the son to remain free and to earn money and to have lead his own life, but what you are trying is to have devotion to God. The God has given me this responsibility, and when I try to help my son or my daughter in making them self-dependent, that means God will be pleased with me. My aim is to please God by performing the duty He has assigned to me. I have taken this as a samsara dharma. I have taken this responsibility, and by performing my responsibility, Son will be okay, he will be self-dependent, daughter will be self-dependent. That is not the real goal. Real goal is, by making my son and daughter self-dependent, I will be performing the duty assigned to me by God, and God will be pleased by that. So it is all about pleasing God, about all about becoming closer to God, all about developing love for God. In everything, it is God and God alone. That is what the bhakti comes. God becomes center of our life, nothing else, nothing else. All are means to that center in our. All others are external things. And what is the sign of bhakti? Sri Krishna says, bhakti now maturing into bhava, perhaps, characterized by what are the bhakti? You have bhakti already come, God has become central of your life. And you are doing the things of the world, and you do little japam, God, you pray to God while coming out of your house, you bow down to God. When you go to God there, in your office also you remember of God. So bhakti is slowly developing. But the real sign that bhakti has developed and it's become going to the second stage of bhakti is characterized by softening of the heart. That's why the see beautiful it is said, Dravate yasya chittam. Heart becomes dravate, softening, becomes like liquid. Dravibhuta. Drava means liquefying. It starts melting. Heart is melting. What happens when it melts? Then it doesn't remain here. It goes to the thing that is seen before you. It goes to God. The heart doesn't remain with you, doesn't get remain attached to God, attached to the world. When the heart is melted, it goes to the object of mm, your worship, meditation. So, dravibhuta yasya chittam, dravate yasya chittam. So, that is one sign of bhakti is coming in you, and bhakti is maturing in you. Dravate yasya chittam, it becomes fluid, it flows, it melts, melting of the heart. Tulsidas says to say that this love of God, the heart of the devotee is a softer than the butter, hmm? Softer than the butter, because to melt the butter you need some heat, but heart of the devotee is always melted. It is melted and flowing to God. The dravate yasya chittam, always that. It is all soft and so much. So that is what is one sign of bhakti is coming. So that the heart that melts to God. And when you sit for like meditation or prayer, your heart it just flows to God. You don't have to force it to take. It just flows. There is the automatic natural flow of heart towards your ishta. That is what is called dravate chittam. And later on, you find some people suffering, some people in difficulty. It also melts to them because you find your ishta is there, and you find that there is so much of joy and bliss in the peace in the heart sitting there in the Atman. God Himself is sitting. That person is unaware of the bliss that could be experienced and engrossed in the world, which is ever changing. We cannot really satisfy. We cannot make the world as we like. Every good thing is glowing, changing is there. Our the parents which are youthful and well when they were like in middle ages, when they grow old they become weak, they suffer. And our heart from suffering, if we our mind just becomes so miserable, seeing our parents suffer, our dear ones suffer, or seeing them they're losing their suppose they're losing their mobility, losing their memory, and if we suffer that, so that suffering doesn't make any sense. That means you have not understood the world and you have not accepted the changes that brings the world. That is very natural thing. That should make us be more serving. Feeling is there. Feeling and your suffering are two different things. Feeling is for anyone who suffers, and when you're miserable, that you cannot come out of that suffering. Day and night you only think of only your suffering dear ones, only nothing else. That is the part of life you understand. You become wiser, and that make now has come to your parents, your dear ones. It will come to you if you live longer. It may come to you any day. So suffering is a part of our human life. You cannot get rid of that. But before the suffering hits you, you must develop so much of love of God that body suffering, and then still your mind could be put at the lotus feet of God. And there is a bliss. And then you can say, when you have such mind, sharir jane ya dukha jane, mon tumi anande thako. Don't bother about body or mind. Let body and the suffering, they relate to each other. Suffering consists of body. But mind, you remain in the bliss. Tumi anande thako. You remain in the bliss, in the joy of God. So don't bother about the suffering of your body, about the suffering of others. Really, this melting of the heart is there. The heart that melts for God, that melts for any being that has suffering. Any being. Your not only your near and dear ones, any human being, any living being, when they suffer, that person's heart melts for that, wants to remove their suffering, feels for their suffering, and prays to remove their suffering that is there. But is not overwhelmed by that, because God is the one who's on whose will the whole world runs. All everything by the will of God and our prarabdha karma. Nothing can be done. And when we suffer a lot, they say there is some meaning in the suffering. Suffering was our own born, our own karma has brought. And by going through the suffering, we actually burn the karma. We get rid of the suffering. The suffering that we had earned we had to go through that. If not in this life, then next life. So we completely finish that, become free from that karma. That is one good way to think about the suffering. So it says about whose heart melts, is the sign of a bhakta. What are the other signs of bhakta? He says, characterize softening of the heart, the hair is standing on end. So when you have tremendous love of God, romancha, it's called Roma Harsha. Roma Harsha can be of two types. One is out of love, that is very rarely, but many of us have experienced Roma Harsa otherwise. Otherwise means out of fear, some fear of dark, some fear of something. Suddenly all here stand on end. So adrenaline, rush of adrenaline, and your hairs stand on end, which is not very joyful experience, which prepares you to defend yourself by flight or fight. That is the Roma Harsa. But in Roma Harsa, because of bhakti, because of love, because of intense love of God, that Roma Harsa makes you filled with love, with bliss. That is what called Roma Harsa. When there is Roma Harsa, because of love of God, you have come in front of love of God. Seems God is there, God is looking at you, and your hairs stand on end. And that is what is bhakti developing, bhakti becoming solidified, bhakti moving towards bhava. That is what is characterized by Roma Harsa, or or what it is called here is um, it's called. It is called here Roma Harsha, and here she's standing on end. As in the Gita, Sri Krishna said when he saw the enemy, and he had to fight and kill all his enemies. He said, Roma Harsham Chajayate Gandhibram Srangsate Hastat Tvakchaiva Paridayate, and Roma Harsham Chajayate. So body temperature has risen high, that my Gandiva weapon is slipping from hand, and weakness has come. And Roma Harsa happened. Here she stand on end. That here standing was not because of love of battle or war or self-confidence, or because God is his companion, but because of fear, something that he didn't want to do. Suddenly this weakness came to him. By his own admission, it is there that Roma Harsa Stajayate. Roma Harsa, there is no Harsa in that Roma Harsa. But in love of God, really the Roma Harsa, meaning stand the hears experiencing the joy, means every hair is experiencing the joy. That's why Roma Harsa. So this Roma Harsa is real joy in bhakti. In Arjuna's case, this that Roma Harsa was the fear, a sign of avoidance, a sign of not willingness to do that. So that is what called is Roma Harsa, Roma Harsa Sajayate. So what is another sign of devotion to God? Uh, Sri Krishna says in this verse, the and tears of joy flowing out of the eyes. So what can compare with that? Tears of eyes. Um, Vina Ananda Shrukalaya. When you have this thing, you have tears coming from the eyes. So that is what Sri Krishna says. Three qualities he said. Your heart melts, and here stands on end, and eyes start shedding tears, tears of joy, anandashru. Sri Ramakrishna said beautifully in the gospel that anandashru and dukkhashru are two different ways they flow. When you are in blissful state and have the tears of joy, it flows from the outer corner, and in suffering it flows from the inner corner. So that is how Sri Ramakrishna differentiates between Ananda Asru and Dukkha Asru. So Ananda Asru is that. And this Ananda Asru, Roma Harsha, and Chitta Dravibhuta Dravata Yasya Chittam, so Dravata Chetas, it's called. So when the heart melts, that all happens by bhakti is developing, and by that bhakti your heart will be purified. What can purify heart without having the bhakti characterized mm, by melting of the heart, hairs standing on end out of joy, and shedding the tears of joy? So that is what is most purifying, most joyful thing also. That who experiences that is great joy. Sri Ramakrishna used to often say, people in the world, worldly people, shed jugs of tear, jug full of tears for money, for wealth, for position, for children. They cry always for that. Oh, that my daughter doesn't look after me, doesn't call me. Oh, my son, what he will do? He goes away from me after he got married. He's away, and they shed tears. What happened? I did so much for him, and he's doing nothing. Those people always engrossed, and they have shed jug full of tears for their people, money lost in some investment. All they cry, but they don't shed a drop of tear for the sake of God. They don't experience the shedding of Anandashru. Only they know about the Dukkhashru. So shed the tears of love for God. Be immersed in the thought of God and shed tears for that. Then you will understand what this shedding tears means. So that's what is, and that is uh, joyful experience because it comes from bhakti, and also that is very much purifying, very powerful purifier of your mind. So now let's go to next verse, verse 24. Bhagad-gada dravate yasya chittam rudyadvikšnam hasati kachi hasati kachicha vilajja udgayati nityate cha madbhakti yukto bhuvanam punati. Ah, oh, beautiful verse. It just brings Sri Ramakrishna's life before us, and that such life, such sort of life in one has. It doesn't only purify that person alone, it purifies whom? Bhuvanam Punati. The whole world is purified with such exuberance of devotion. What is that exuberance of devotion? Let us go detail on this. Vag Gad Gada. So voice is Gad Gada. It stops A devotee of mine whose speech is broken by sobs. So he cannot express fully. Voice do not come. It doesn't flow. It stops with the sobs, and he cannot express the thing. Sri Ramakrishna used to go into samadhi, and when he came back, he used to say, wanted to say Krishna, Krishna, but couldn't pronounce it, name of Krishna correctly. He said Kitna, Kitna. He used to say that way. That is what is called Vagadgada. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, when that day will come, Vadanam Vatanam Gadgada Ruddhaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Bapu Kada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishyati. So he also Nayanam Galadasrudharaya Vadanam Gadgada Ruddhaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Bapu Kada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishyati. When will that day come, O Krishna? Said Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, Krishna Avatara, but experiencing devotee love for Krishna. It's a, when my ears will flow in torrents and my voice will be choked while taking your name, and Pulakai Nichitam Bapukkada, and our hairs will stand. When? By just taking your name. I will say Krishna, and all this Sattvika Vikara will come. And this Sattvika Vikara are most purifying thing. And what they purify, let's go in, let's hear this verse further. A devotee of mine whose speech is broken by sobs of emotion of love for me, whose heart melts. They say, Dravate Yasachitam. Again, he says, whose heart melts and flows to me. What happens when heart melts? It flows. It flows to God. It doesn't remain with you. Heart was with you. Now it has melted and gone to God. Now heart has now touched God. It is not with you now anymore. It has become God's thing. It is now God's thing, whose heart melts and who without any idea of shame. So, any idea of shame, vilajja, that's what it said. Lajja is gone. What happens without lajja, when the lajja that when you have gone beyond shame? Sometimes weeps profusely. While weeping, also we feel so shy when we have to shed tears. Oh, what people will say. Don't feel shy. Just shed your tears of joy. So that's what Vilajja. So he says the Vilajja then sometimes weeps profusely because he doesn't care what people think. People thinking becomes very negligible. God becomes important. Or laughs. So cries or laughs. Or sings aloud. That's what is called. Udgayati. That's what he sings aloud the name of God. And or dances or nityate. So or dances purifies the whole universe. When such things happen, it not only purifies you, you are already purified, it purifies the whole world. As they said, when a person realizes God, then then whole universe is purified. Mm, that verse, Vasundhara Bhagyavati Chatena. So, Kulam Pavitram Janani Kritartha Vasundhara Bhagyavati Chatena. Mother becomes Kulam, your whole lineage becomes purified. Janani Kritartha, the mother who gives birth, it become her work is done, her purpose is done, the purpose of life. And Vasundhara Bhagyavati, the whole earth is blessed. Bhagyavati is blessed. By whom? By a person who realizes God. That's what he said. One person realizes God, but whole world becomes Bhagyavati. And mother becomes her kritartha, her work, final work is done. What she was supposed to do, she has done much more than realizing God. And whole lineage is purified. Like that he said, the Bhuvanam Punati Mad Bhakti Yukto, because the person he or she is has the devotion to me, and that makes my whole life, and that makes his whole life and whole universe is purified by presence of such person on this world. Just see Sri Ramakrishna. If you have read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you will always find this thing. Sri Ramakrishna is listening to some song. Suddenly he stands up, goes into samadhi, and he starts dancing, and he's singing so beautifully, singing, and his hairs on standing on end. Yam said, I saw in the dream that some person came and said, come to follow me, I'm going to Devi, the city of Devi. What is the name of city? He said, in Kolkata, that name is there. And God's city, and follow me. And he was walking, and how are you walking on water? He said, and and he said there is a bridge under the water, so I'm walking on that. The teacher, and he was sleep broke. When he told this, Bhavanipur was the name of the city. Bhavanipur means citadel of the Divine Mother. So I'm going there. So I'm going to God. Come to me, his person said. And Sri Ramakrishna, hearing this dream of him, he says, my hair is standing on end. You need a guru, you need a diksha now. It is all indication that you have to take spiritual life very seriously. Now, initiation, progress, path, walking on the walk has to be done for spiritual practice. That's Sri Ramakrishna says. And he used to dance so wonderful, shed tears of joy listening to the songs. And that's all we find. And how by his devotion to Divine Mother, to God, for him, Divine Mother was the supreme being of this universe. He made the whole world purified. Is there any doubt that Sri Ramakrishna's advent has made the whole world purified? The whole world has really become purified. Swami Vivekananda said that by the advent of Sri Ramakrishna, the day he was born, the Satya Yuga has started. The good time has come. Now, who takes Sri Ramakrishna in their life? To them, the Satya Yuga has come. Those who do not accept him, do not follow his guidance, so who do not go walk the path towards God. For them, it is whole Kali Yuga, always is that. You are attracted to the world, you are very bishai, you are only objects of the senses, you are engrossed in that, you are bound. So for such person, there is no Satya Yuga ever. That is Ghor Kali Yuga. But for those who try to follow Sri Ramakrishna's teaching and try to follow, develop love of God, want to do vichara, and want to do spiritual practice and take spirituality seriously, perform their duties to please God, Haritoshanam, to them the Satya Yuga has come. The good time has come, and God will reveal to them. So that is what is Sri Krishna saying. When such persons are there in the world with having this urjita bhakti, bhava, bhakti is maturing in bhava, by that not only they are blissful, the whole world becomes blessed and purified. Bhuvanam punati bhuvanam. So by such person, the whole world is purified. What a glory of bhakti Sri Krishna is saying to Uddhava. That's what the importance of devotion to God, which will clear all the impurities in our heart, and it will make it shining. Our heart has become dirty with the impurities of self-centeredness, of ignorance, of attachment, and all that will be taken away by the love of God, and it will shine in the glory of God. God will find it the place to reside. And when God resides within your heart, you are no more the same person. You are a transformed person, changed person. Now you are a devotee of God. So God will start guiding you. God will start making you his like an instrument. That's what as Sri Krishna said to Arjuna. We Arjuna, my instrument. So like that, we become the instrument of God and live our life in utter bliss, utter joy, and give bliss, distribute the joy of God to whomever we come in touch. That's how the Bhuvanam Punati, the world becomes purified. Thank you for today's class. Now we close today's class with the closing chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmu. Good night, everyone.